In tonight's World in Focus, we meet Harry Wu, a man with an extraordinary story to tell. Wu spent 19 years as a political prisoner in forced labour camps in China, the equivalent of the old Soviet Union's gulags. He almost died on several occasions. Despite this, after moving to America in 1985, at enormous risk, Harry Wu went back into China 3 times to film secretly inside those same camps. Harry Wu's in Australia at the moment, and in a minute, an interview I recorded with him earlier today. But first, a brief look at his amazing story. Harry Wu is one of those people who apparently never gives up. In fact, you could even call him obsessive. Back in 1956, Wu made the mistake of publicly criticising Beijing's great ally Moscow when it invaded Hungary. And as a result, spent 19 years in Chinese labour camps, branded a quote-unquote counter-revolutionary rightist. And while many things have changed in China in recent years, the justice system has not. No one really knows the exact numbers, but some estimates say at least 8 million people are currently held in camps like these. Many of them are political prisoners. Most have not had a fair trial or any trial at all. Often the work is dirty and dangerous. For instance, these prisoners in a leather factory are working naked in vats of tanning chemicals. Torture and abuse is part of the punishment. At this particular prison, authorities were more than happy to sign a contract selling lambskins to America at prices well below those from the rest of the world. Hardly surprising when the labour is free. In a way, Harry Wu was actually one of the lucky ones. He survived. After he got out of China in 1985, Harry moved to America, where he began a one-man campaign to educate the world about the Laogai, the Chinese equivalent of the infamous Soviet gulags. He's written books and lobbied politicians and corporate executives throughout the world. His claim is that goods made by Chinese prison labour are sold in many Western countries, despite laws banning this sort of thing. Incredibly, Harry Wu travelled back 3 times into Chinese camps where he himself had been held, posing variously as a businessman, a tourist and a guard. What you're seeing here is film he shot secretly as evidence for his campaign. But on the 4th occasion he tried this, Harry was caught at the border and sentenced to another 15 years. Persistent international pressure got him out, and these days Harry Wu travels the world in an attempt to turn Laogai into a household word, much the same as Alexander Solzhenitsyn did for the word gulag. Mr. Wu, thank you for joining us and welcome to Australia. Before we talk about your story, could I ask you, because I know you've still got contacts inside China, what you hear about the impact of these terrible floods that are occurring there now?
Well, there's a couple of thousand people killed and many families destroyed. It's really a tragedy. But I want to say, since 1949, the communists take over, they not really work very hard to take care of these environment things. I want to say in the next century, China will facing a very, very serious environment crisis.
Could I talk to you also, again, before we talk about your personal story, about Bill Clinton's recent visit, a very controversial one, and he talks about constructive engagement with the Chinese hierarchy. What do you feel about the American approach? Do you think that this whole idea of constructive engagement is going to work?
I think there's 2 points I will share with you. First of all, the Clinton visit China put himself in the wrong side of the history because he became an honored guest of the communist butchers. Secondly, so-called constructive engagement policy, my view, is a typical appeasement policy.
So you think that the way they're going at the moment, where the economy and making money has become all important, doesn't really mean that China as a political system has changed?
Yes, because you have to know one thing. The profit from the trade, profit for the foreign investment, it is true, benefit the common people, but also benefit communist rulers. They're using the money, upgrade their military systems, and using the money to control the people.
One thing that you said in your book that I find absolutely fascinating, which most people would find very difficult to understand and want you to explain it. You said the world knows only the tip of the iceberg when you were talking about Tiananmen Square. The world knows that perhaps a few people were killed at Tiananmen Square or directly afterwards. I say the incident at Tiananmen Square was peanuts.
Yes. How many people killed in the Tiananmen massacre? If you guess it's 2,000, I can give you about 5,000. Are you satisfied? I give you 10,000. But during the time, that means since 1949 to today, almost every 2 or 3 years, they have a political campaign and prosecute a large number of the people. For example, 1957, the so-called anti-righteous movement, and 1 million people prosecuted. I'm one of them. So that the number of the victims from Tiananmen massacre compared to the other political campaign, small peanuts.
In your book, you also suggest that you believe that something like 8 million people at one time or other have gone through those camps and suffered.
No more than that. Since 1949 today, about 50 million people.
And how many of those 50 million would you regard as political prisoners, like yourself?
The Chinese never accept the idea of so-called political criminal, but they call these people as a class enemy. You see, Hitler divided people by race, and Chinese communists and Soviet communists divided people by class. Because you belong to bourgeois class, you belong to landlord class. This enemy class, we abolished it.
So you were part of the enemy class, you were part of the bourgeois class as they saw it.
That is a problem in 1957. Actually, in 1957, I say a few words. I just say, oh, I disagree with the Soviet invasion of Hungary, and I think it violates international law. And then a couple of days, the party branch make announcement. Harry Wu is the counter-revolutionaries. Deprive the freedom from me, and later sentenced to life to the prison camp.
That was the beginning of your many, many years in prison camps throughout the country.
Because I come from bourgeois class,
right.
And I was a Catholic.
Double jeopardy.
They don't like that.
You said in your book that this was the biggest concentration camp system in human history. Can you explain to me what it was like? I know we haven't got a lot of time, but what was it like to be a prisoner of your kind in that country at that time?
Chinese characterized their system as a reform through labor system. Reform means brainwashing.
But in your case, clearly, the brainwashing didn't work. I mean, they tried to program your brain and it didn't work. How come it didn't work with you?
Maybe I'm the stupid guy, didn't accept it. But you have to know, it's really effective. Many, many people really damaged. In Chinese prison camp, you never can treat yourself as a human being. Reduce yourself from a human being into an animal. This is the way I survive, and many people survive.
How did you survive then? If you were beginning to feel like an animal, how did you manage to survive all those years?
George, don't think about your dignity. You never can think about your family, your love, your humanity, your freedom. Don't think about it.
A completely practical approach to a survival technique.
And then
else.
you survive.
Yep.
There's no hero can survive from a Chinese prison camp. Nobody can resist.
The prison camps, though, today appear to have become economic tools, if you like, of the Chinese government as much as they were concentration camps.
Yes, there's a forced labor in Gulag and forced labor in concentration camp, but the forced labor in China, in Chinese prison camp, is very, very well organized. They call this is a special enterprise system.
Special enterprises?
Yeah, because it's special economy system. Because it is true, every individual camp is enterprises. As a farm.
It's a business.
As a mine.
It's a business.
Oh yeah, production.
And then that goes on to the international market.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that there are products on sale in this country, products being used by Australian industry, that are in fact produced by prisoners in Chinese prison camps. Simple as that.
Yes, many daily products. For example, toys, Christmas lights, artificial Christmas tree, garments, rubber shoes, and even football, soccer ball.
Do you think that the Australian government and Australian importers are aware of this?
I think some Australian importers, they're aware about it, but they don't care about it.
So what should the government be doing? Should the Australian government, for instance, be suggesting that there should be import bans placed on them?
If the Australian government, just like the United States government, want to maintain a good relation with the communist government and then turn a blind eye on it.
Do you think that's what we're doing?
Probably yes.
does it mean that the only way things are going to change the way you would like to see them change in China is going to come from the Chinese people themselves?
China only can change by Chinese, their own people.
Yes.
If the Chinese stood up, say, I deserve the right for my religions. I deserve the right to say something I want to say. I deserve the right to move around in the country without the control. That means this is the opposite side of the tyranny system.
But is it that they find themselves in a catch-22 situation? If they do that, they might end up in the same situation you did, slapped behind bars in a prison camp.
Yes, they can put me and put millions of people in the prison camp. They cannot put the whole people, everyone in the camp.
What now for someone like yourself? What's the next move for Harry Wu? You've obviously dedicated your entire existence to doing what you can to change that system. What next?
George, first of all, I have to explain to you, I'm a very common person.
You don't seem very common to me, to be honest.
Well, I'm pretty old. I want to enjoy the rest of my life. You know, I know what is a good time under the sunshine on the beach. 1979, released from the camp, I'm very quiet. I didn't say anything. 1985, I went to the United States as a UC Berkeley scholar. I told myself, turn the page over. Forget it. I did, I tried. But I can't. I cannot turn my back to these people. I cannot tell the people, say, I'm sorry, you are unlucky, I'm lucky. This is not fair. And particularly today, many people, many Western politicians say, oh, China is on the right direction. Something is different now. Even the communists are different now. They try to tell the people, say, oh, these communists can change by our money. Just like we can convince a tiger become a vegetarian. Okay, that really made me a little bit angry about these things.
It's good to talk to you, and I don't think anybody would blame you for wanting to lie on a beach after what you've been through.
Thank you.
Nice to talk to you. Enjoy your stay in Australia.
Thank you.